Chris, would you like me to start with the opening remarks and wait for Catherine, or?
I think at this point, you're entitled to proceed, and if Catherine joins, we can sort it out then.
Okay. All righty. Good evening and welcome to the March 1st, 2020 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Elizabeth Newell, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance to the New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to the judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. This meeting is being conducted virtually via video conferences in lieu of meeting in the council chamber of Summit City Hall, Summit, New Jersey. This meeting is being live streamed to the city YouTube page. Members of the public can view the meeting by following the link provided on the agenda. Andrew Ball is the zoning board attorney. He will advise the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the application. Chris Nicola is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola works with the applicants on getting their applications together, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the application. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You will be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, please call the roll of members.
Certainly. Vice Chairwoman Newell?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
And Chairman Spur is excused this evening. And then we have Mr. Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Ms. Schwartzstein?
Here.
Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager?
Here.
All right, you have a quorum, you can proceed.
Thank you. We generally hear the cases in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or the attorney giving an overview of the application and the variants that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and their expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals are done with their questioning, the public may have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. The opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask questions, we will need to know who you are and where you live. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. Please state your name before speaking or asking a question. And please do not talk over each other. This is even more important under the current circumstances. And if you're not speaking, kindly place yourselves on mute. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak. And at the time, you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we go into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You'll be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date and it will not be decided tonight. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision. and pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by the civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering department. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for the city zoning staff. The resolution documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. When I call your name, please tell me how many witnesses you have and whether you think you can complete your case within 30 minutes. The first case is Secker LLC, 61 Woodland Avenue.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Jason Tubell, attorney for the applicant. This is an application for 61 Woodland Avenue, block 2001, lot 3. I do plan on calling only one witness, Madam Chair, so I do think we can conclude this in one evening, and it also is a pretty modest application. The application is for a 2-story addition on the existing home.
Okay, I just want to know how many
sure.
witnesses. Perfect, thank
Just
you so
one.
much. Okay, great, thank you. Zach Rubik and Brielle Tumbley, 39 Clark Street.
Yes, that is us. This is Brielle. I'm Zach. We are from 39 Clark Street. And yes, we do believe that this can be resolved tonight. We have one witness, is Nicholas Giuliano.
Nicholas, okay,
Hi all, Nicholas Giuliano here.
okay, thank you. Ty and Payal Patel for Club Drive.
Hi, good evening. Pyle and Ty are here. We have one witness.
That's me,
Oh.
Conway.
Oh, it's gone up, okay. Thank you. And last, Peter and Christina Will for Evergreen Road.
Hi, this is Peter, my wife, Christiana. And we believe that we can accomplish this in 30 minutes. We have one witness. Our architect is here, Alan Leonard.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I mispronounced your name.
It's okay.
Thanks. Okay, thank you so much. And why don't we get started with 61 Woodland Avenue?
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair. Again, members of the board, Jason Tubell, attorney for the applicant. This is an application for block 2001, lot 3. It's a 2-story addition to the existing home located on the property. And the applicant is doing this to make the home more efficient and user-friendly. The addition is only 110.6 square feet, and it's to add a powder room on the first floor and a master bathroom on the second floor. As a result of the addition, the house will only be 2,400 square feet if approved. There are 4 variances associated with the application: floor area ratio, building and lot coverage, and also the location of the HVAC unit. You'll see that the reason for the variance relief being sought is mainly because the lot is deficient in lot size by more than 25%. So your ordinance calls for the minimum lot size in this zone to be 10,000 square feet, where the lot size here is 7,234 square feet. So a lot of the areas that we're asking relief from are already pre-existing non-conforming conditions on the property, and they're only being exacerbated as a result of this application, in some instances by only 2% and in others by only 0.5%. So again, the expansion or the additional floor area is pretty modest. One thing that's interesting here too is that although the house is being expanded, it is not encroaching into any yards further than the existing home. So the side, rear, and front yards will all be respected as a result. We did receive comment letters from several agencies within the municipality. It should be worth noting that the historic preservation was complimentary of the architecture that was part of this application. The forester was supportive of the landscaping that was proposed, and we're also willing to abide by all the comments set forth in the engineer's letter. I have one witness, Madam Chair, that I plan on calling, who is our architect, Tom Conway. So if you'd like, we could swear him in.
Sure, and before we proceed, if you're not speaking, if you can just place yourself on the mute, that'd be great.
All right, Mr. Conway, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Thomas Conway, Conway.
Thank you. And would you kindly briefly describe your background, experience, and name 3 boards you've appeared before aside from Summit?
Sure. My name is Thomas Conway. I am a partner at Rosen Kelly Conway Architects in Summit at 16 Maple Street. I have an undergraduate from Miami University in Bachelor of Environmental Design, a master's in architecture from the University of Washington with a certificate in preservation planning and design. I've been practicing for over 30 years. I've been at Rosen Kelly Conway for 25 years. I'm a partner there. I am also a chairman. I've been on the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Summit for the past 8 years. I'm chairman of that. I also advise this board as well as the planning board. I'm sure you all are familiar with my name, considering my name's at the bottom of a lot of these reviews you read every month. I have presented in front of dozens of other municipalities. Locally, Chatham, New Providence, Short Hills, Milburn. I could keep going, but
we don't need that. I imagine the board would like to accept your credentials at this point.
Thank you.
We do. Thank you.
Counsel, your witness.
Thank you. So, Mr. Conway, why don't you get the board oriented to the property? Why don't we start by bringing up the proposed floor plans that are part of this application?
Sure. Let me, I'm going to start just briefly. Bear with me as I work to share my screen. Excuse me.
By the way, Madam Chair, I'll apologize. That was my dog. I'll admit it. Sorry about that.
Okay. Can everyone see this? Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes. And Tom, just when you refer to the sheet, just indicate the title of the sheet that you're looking at.
Okay. So we're looking at the Spur residence. This is for Corzine Engineering lot and grading and soil erosion control plan. And this is just a basic site plan. The reason I wanted to show this is that this is the property here. It has a slightly curve on the front of Woodland Avenue. As it's already been indicated, the property is undersized. It's 7,234 square feet. The current house has a front porch. It sits in the middle of the property, more or less. And the areas we're looking to talk about are these shaded areas. Now I'm going to go back, pardon me, and see if I can get this to work. Hold on. Damn it. Sorry, I'm trying to get the share screen. There's too much on my laptop. Hold on.
Mr. Ball, this was submitted with the application, so I don't think we have to mark this.
Yeah.
Very good.
Hold on. Can you see this? Can you see V1?
Yes, we can see the floor plan, Tom.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is V1. This is for Rosen Kelly Conway drawing of the variance drawings. This is showing, for me? This is showing to the left the proposed first floor and to the right proposed second floor. To the left, you'll see that we're adding a small amount of space here on the back of the house. Currently, this is, you walk in, it's a traditional four square with a American four square, which would be has a foyer, either a dining room, living room, and a kitchen. Off the back is a little bit of a breakfast area. And currently we're reconfiguring this area to create a little powder room on that floor and a desk area. On the second floor, which is the main reason for this, there's only one bathroom currently on the second floor. This is a sloped roof area currently. So there's basically 4 bedrooms on this floor with 1 hall bath, and we're creating a new bathroom here so that the clients and owners can have a true master bath and more of a traditional house layout. On the exterior of the house, it's tucked into the back corner, as we said here, and on the back in this corner when you're looking to the back. In order to claim this area that we're doing to get this part of the house, we're ending up squaring off the deck. The deck kind of wraps around the edge of this, and we're adding a little bit on the back here, which is basically about 40 square feet for the deck area, which is this section right here, and you'll see it's shaded. We maintain materials consistent with historic preservation and the master plan and the DRO. All the materials match. There's consistency in the design as well. As was indicated, the lot coverage, this is an outline of this information here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, but I'll read this to you. Everything else is lot area is, as I said, 10,000 required. We're at 7,234, no change. A lot width is 75 is required. We're only at 51.48. And the front yard setback is at 30 required, and we're at 27.9. So that's also not quite there. We have a side yard setback of 12 feet required. We have 10.9 and 12.1. No change there. The rear yard setback is 40. What the existing is 45, which is good. And the proposed is going to be 44.1, which is conforming. The side yard combined, it is required to be 35%, which is 18 feet. What we have currently is 44.7, which is 23 feet. And we have no change there. The lot coverage is where there is a variance required. We have a 35% required. We're at 52.8% to begin with, and the existing is 52.8%, and we're presenting 53.5%. So that requires a variance. The building coverage is 18% required. The existing is at 28.5%, also over, and we're proposing 29.0%. And the floor area ratio is at 25% required. We are already at 31.7 as a pre-existing nonconformity, and we're proposing a 33.2%. Also, next to the property, which shows up on the site engineering plan as well, is we have a condenser that sits right next to the house here. We're putting another condenser there. That currently sits at 8.7 feet from the property line. So we would also be seeking a variance for that equipment to maintain where it is now. And that's an outline of the project.
And Tom, you reviewed the forester's letter and the HPC's letter, both supportive of the design. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in terms of the relief that's being sought, the FAR and the FAR variance and the C variances, do you see any substantial detriment to the public good, the surrounding properties, or any substantial impairment to the zone plan or zone ordinance?
I don't see anything, and it's also in the back right rear corner of the property.
Okay. So in your professional opinion as an architect, you believe that the property can accommodate the additional floor area ratio that's being added without any detriment to the surrounding properties?
I do, and I don't think it will be perceivable. Okay.
In terms of the positive criteria for the variances, do you believe that the application meets purpose I of the ML municipal land use law, which is to promote a desirable visual environment? And if so, explain why.
I do believe that because we are maintaining the historic integrity of the house, and we are matching the materials and finishes and details with window patterns, siding materials, etc.
Okay. And you would also believe that based on that purpose J is met, which is to promote historic preservation and historic architecture.
Correct. And the master plan's goal of improving character or maintaining and improving character of the city of Summit.
Okay, and as part of your analysis as well, based on the fact that your design is simply squaring off the existing structure.
Correct.
Okay, so in your professional opinion as an architect, in terms of the variances being sought, at least as to the C variances, the benefits of granting those variances would substantially outweigh any detriments?
I do.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, that's I believe, Tom, unless you had anything else, I think that's the extent of our direct presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the board professionals? Chris, you're on mute.
I have no questions, sorry.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Any questions from the board? Let me just scroll, make sure. Nothing, okay. Any questions from the public? Okay, Mrs. Zahn, Miriam?
Myself there. Hi, I live on 65 Woodland Avenue, Miriam Zahn. We were in front of the zoning board in December for our property, just 2 houses down. And as part of that meeting, the city asked us to investigate stormwater management in more detail. We had several neighbors discussing impacts on our property, as well as impacts in surrounding properties. So we did an investigation, and I'm going to ask our geotechnical engineer to just present some information that might be relevant to stormwater management for this property, 61 Woodland. His name is Jeff DeRosier.
Good evening, everyone. Just to clarify, civil engineer, not geotech.
I would just ask, Madam Chair, that would usually be done after.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying Ms. Zahn can't do that, but it wouldn't be done until after.
Correct. That's more of the comments.
I actually have a specific question I would like to ask the architect, if possible, if this is the appropriate time.
A question, that would be fine.
Mr. Conway, there are two.
If you can spell your name for the court reporter.
Pardon?
Can you spell your name?
Jeffrey DeRosier, DeRosier.
And your address, please.
35 Gates Avenue in Warren.
Thank you.
There are 4 roof leaders that come off the existing house. They look like they go below grade per visual observation when I walked the site earlier today. Do you know if those roof leaders discharge to the municipal storm sewer system, or if they discharge to the rear of the property, which is approximately 5 feet below the average grade at the street, where we believe at least a portion of the driveway runoff discharges to, and if there's any stormwater management controls on the site?
Sure. Casey Keller is the, Peter Corzine is the site engineer, and we will be doing stormwater management. So I'm not familiar with, they do go into the ground, but I'm not familiar with where they specifically go. I would assume they go onto the perimeter of the property, which is typical, meaning perimeter of the existing foundation. There's gravel below, but I'm not clear on exactly where that is. But what will happen for this is that we will be required to put a stormwater management plan together and mitigate any required drainage issues that exist.
Okay, because the board engineer's letter says there's no stormwater management proposed.
Well, there isn't, because it's not required, but we're still going to look at it to determine if there is any problems with it.
It's not required per what?
Per the size of the addition.
So all of the runoff, which we believe, unless proven otherwise, goes to the back left corner, which ends up running off.
I think we're beyond a question.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions?
They're going to present an alternative, an opposition case, that's, I think, where it belongs. Andy, do you agree?
Yes, I believe he's done with questions at this point. You can save any additional portion for commentary.
I would be happy to.
Okay.
And I would also add that, as was just noted, our engineer said that the addition is of such de minimis size that no stormwater management is needed. So I'm not sure we have to do more than that. Just recognize that. And we can hear the testimony, but you know, our engineer says none is needed.
I'll wait to speak at the end. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions from the public? No? By the way, I forgot to ask, are you proposing a generator at any point?
The homeowners are not proposing a generator at this point.
All right. Any other?
You're
Mr.
referring referring to a whole house backup generator. You're correct. Like, yes. Okay. All right. I'm
Yes.
just.
A lot of times with the new renovations, they ask.
I know it's just a fairly minor renovation. I don't think they're concerned.
Understood. I just figured I should ask.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Tuvell, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, the only thing I would add, just because it seems like the one neighbor brought it up, is that even though Mr. Conway is correct that we do not have to add or propose stormwater management based on the fact that the increase in square footage is so de minimis, comment number 12 of the board engineer's review memo dated February 18th, 2021 does state that the applicant shall be aware that if stormwater runoff drainage problems occur on their property and or neighboring properties as a result of the construction of their proposed improvements, it's the applicant's responsibility to remedy the issue. So we will be working with the board engineer or the city engineer during construction to ensure that there are no issues. And that is a condition of the approval that we stipulated to as part of the application.
And that's what I was referring to.
Right. And that's one of the conditions that we do have.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Are we
can
going
we
to retain jurisdiction for 2 years?
We're both saying the same thing.
Yep.
So council, one thing we normally do is require drainage jurisdiction, meaning if there does result in a drainage issue with any of the neighboring properties, the matter can come back within the board if that occurs within 2 years after the application. Is that something your client would consent to as part of the application?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
Any final words from you or the homeowner?
Just for me, that as I indicated at the beginning, I think the variances are de minimis. We're really just squaring off the building. And usually when I do expansion cases of any structures, we're usually encroaching in a yard and going above and beyond, way more than this. And by doing that, it was respectful of the homeowners on the other sides of the property. So I just wanted to indicate that. And I do think we met our burden of proof for not only the D variances that we're seeking, but the D variance we're seeking, but also the C variances. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the public. This is the time where the comments.
Hi. Yes, I just would like to invite Jeff to discuss the stormwater as there are neighboring stormwater impacts on our property.
If you can
we're not What's that?
State your name and address again. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Miriam Zahn, 65 Woodland Avenue. I do want to say that we are not opposed to this project.
Zahn, let me just swear you in for your commentary portion. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you just stated and spelled your last name, so you may proceed.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that we're not opposed to this project at all. We're just seeking commentary on the potential need for stormwater management for this property. And that may go beyond the scope of the 110 square feet that are being added, but I'm going to let Jeff DeRosier speak to that.
So do I need
Mr.
to?
DeRosier, can I swear you in as well?
You can.
Please raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name. You already did state your name, spell your last name. So you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. So
do we need credentials?
I was accepted as a professional by this board in December.
Yes, he was. So assuming the board doesn't have any additional questions for him at this point, we would accept his credentials, I believe.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
So during the December hearing, there was a recommendation by one of the board members to investigate the drain that the neighbor at 67 Woodland testified to. We went out the next day, we found that drain. It's a drain that connects to the municipal sewer, and the city, through correspondence, discussions with the board engineer as well as the city engineer, has stated to us that this is a private drain owned by the owner of 65 Woodland. It's not a city drain. We've estimated that there's approximately 2 acres of stormwater runoff, 2 acres of contributing area that go to that drain. This includes the property at 61 Woodland. So there's an existing drainage condition that we feel that any unrestricted stormwater, even if it's 60 square feet, will contribute to an already exasperated issue at the backyard of 65 Woodland. So we would just ask the board to consider, as we were asked to do, to add a component of stormwater management to this property just to help further mitigate an already exasperated condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ball, can you have a list of conditions and we can utilize the stormwater management as well?
Well, I think we need to open up if Mr. Tavell has any questions for that witness at this point.
Okay.
No, I have no questions for that witness. My only comment again is that I think maybe those issues went above and beyond, go beyond the scope of this application, different application. But like I said, we're committed to condition number 12 that we talked about, which is if the proposed construction per the board engineer's letter results in any drainage issues, and the look back that Mr. Ball had indicated, we're happy to abide by those conditions if the board were to approve the application.
And respectfully, we feel it would be easier to have a satisfiable condition up front with a volume consideration, same condition that we were asked to provide, as opposed to getting into who determines what is an adverse impact later on from one property when it's part of a 10 property issue.
Are you proposing any particular stormwater management facilities at this point?
We were, is that a question for me or is that a question?
Yes, it is. For you.
I would recommend the same condition that the board imposed on us, which was dry wells with 3 inches of volume on all new impervious cover. And if the applicant was willing to pick up a roof leader and provide a dry well that sizes for a roof leader, that's something that would be certainly beneficial to the surrounding, drainage issue.
So, sorry, Madam Chair, can I respond to that?
Yes, you can. I was just going to ask you that.
Yes. So with all due respect, our engineer didn't propose that, and the board engineer didn't require that in his review letter. So I think that my client would be adverse to meeting the board engineer during construction on site to see if there's any issues, like we indicated. But we're not going to agree to something that both our engineer who designed the project and the board engineer who reviewed the project didn't think was necessary.
No, and I, as a professional engineer, have a different opinion.
Liz?
Thank you. Yes, Catherine.
I don't mean to jump in, but I have some questions. So
Sure.
is that time or?
Oh, sure.
I guess my question might be for Mr. Dower. I don't know, or Mr. Conway. I'm not really sure who can answer this, but I mean, am I to understand that we don't really know where the drainage goes currently? And also I'm kind of wondering, are there drainage issues on this particular property? Like, is the back, so I remember Ms. Zahn's application. So, and I remember there were issues with water in the back of her property, I believe. Are there issues with water in the back of this property?
I personally, I'm not familiar with water issues in the back of the property, and also these the site engineer wasn't mitigating them, so we weren't, I'm not apprised of that. But maybe the homeowners might know, but I'm not familiar with that it hasn't been in my scope of work or ever been brought up.
Yeah, I mean, look, we also submitted as part of the application for review, a topographic survey and a grading plan, that if there was an issue, usually the board engineer based on that type of plan would have identified some sort of grading issue that could be a problem. So the fact that that information was provided, topography on the survey, and nothing was noted, again, I'll let the board engineer speak for himself, but I think we covered those issues.
But are you going to do any regrading do you know if any regrading of the property is going to be done? Because it is a pretty small addition. And so
Right.
it would seem to me you wouldn't even have to regrade the property for this addition. So do you know if?
I'll let Tom or the board engineer speak to that if they know the answer.
There was no changes proposed in the grading of the property. The addition is over what was an existing deck, and then the deck is being skirted off in the back, so there really are no proposed changes. There was no additional stormwater changes proposed because it was so de minimis. It's 46 square feet, probably one of the smallest applications we've had for additional coverage.
And I suppose on that note, I'd just like to ask a question for clarification of either Mrs. Zahn or Mr. DeRozier. I'm just pulling up the resolution of approval for that application. And is it correct that the increase in impervious coverage for your application was 2,794 square feet?
I believe that's correct. And the board had conditioned our approval on dealing with stormwater for that increase. All I'm asking for is that the same consideration, which in this case, since it's such a small volume, may not be as big of a facility, be put in as a condition on this, because all runoff from this property, from this addition, from this additional square footage is not an issue on this property. It's an issue on the downstream property, which is Ms. Zahn's property, two things over, which is a bowl where all the runoff goes. That's the offsite impact. There's no grading issues on this property. It is all offsite impacts.
Mr. Bull, can we put a condition about just maintaining the 2-year stormwater management? Because it is such a small.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I thought that was perfectly reasonable when Mr. Ball brought it up. That was fine.
Okay.
And that is one of the conditions I have noted down.
Awesome.
But that's a 2-year time frame where someone gets to say, oh, I have a drainage issue. As I've testified, there's 2 acres of runoff going to Ms. Zahn's backyard. This is a small component of it. So when you have a major storm and her backyard floods, who's to say, it's all this one? It's 10 homes that are contributing to it. All unrestricted stormwater runoff, with the exception of 67, which actually has a dry well, because back in 2000 something, a couple years ago, the board asked him to put a dry well in when he did a small improvement in his property. So we're just asking for consistency here.
So Mr. DeRozier, I had a question on that. So let's say the addition goes on with those, with the condition of retaining jurisdiction for 2 years. So 1 year hence, there's a storm. Do you feel like there would be a perceptible impact on the stormwater situation at the neighboring property?
Any
addition, would you be able to tell?
Yes, any increase in impervious cover within this drainage area is contributing runoff to the backyard.
I'm saying, would you be able to perceive that though, during a subsequent storm?
I don't think you can make a diminutive increase like that, but your ordinance says, hey, there is an offsite impact and an additional impervious cover contributes to additional runoff. It's actually not a large volume that we're looking for. If you were to take the 46 square feet and put 3 inches of runoff, the same criteria that the board asked us to do, you really get a very small facility.
Well, we're all trying to weigh, sort of the impacts here, and we're looking at a de minimis addition. It's a matter of scale in my view, and I'm just trying to ascertain, sort of what the impacts are here against.
Respectfully, I've testified that there's an impact. The board can take my testimony into consideration and move forward how the board chooses.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go back to
add
an
one
earlier?
thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And I know that this addition is not, when you look at an addition, you're not necessarily looking at the existing impacts, but even without the addition, because this property has 52% impervious cover to date, that stormwater management for that property is my property. So that's why this is important. We're already managing their stormwater runoff. I support the project. I'm just looking to make sure that there is not any stormwater runoff that can be managed by the property owner on their own property as opposed to on my property is actually that's the right answer. So in my mind, but I also think in the way the ordinance is written. So for us to show impacts, we've shown impacts, we can show more. Our neighbor on both sides of us has told us about flooding of our property. So there's a reason why we're here testifying. We're not trying to be pains. We're not trying to be difficult. Like I said, I like the idea of, renovating a house. That's what we're doing too. So I'm pro project, just also pro stormwater management at that property, not on my property.
Mr. Duval.
Yes.
In the earlier testimony, I thought I caught something where you had proposed to add a dry well or something, and then when you went to Mr. Dower, he took it out. Is that what I heard?
No.
Okay, can somebody clarify what was said there?
No, I
think it was Mr. Conway who said it.
No, I said we would only be putting it in if we found that when we were doing construction, that there was a problem. But right now, at this point, based on this construction and the size of this construction, we're not required to do that. But for instance, if we dug down and we came upon an underground stream, or we came upon a well or something of that nature, there might be a point at that point to mitigate it. But we're not planning on it, but we have a site engineer and we'll look at it, but we're basing it on just construction and basing it on the zoning requirements and the engineering requirements. I'm not saying we're putting it in. I'm just saying if there was an issue regarding this specific construction, remember the deck is, all we're doing is putting a piling in on the deck just for that space. It's just one post, and then we're filling in the corner of the house. And in that portion of the house, there isn't a lot of hydrostatic pressure in the basement. It's not like we are seeing a lot of water pouring into the basement or anything of that nature. So it's not like we're seeing that kind of a symptom for this addition. So that's what I was bringing up, Mr. Steiner. Is that clear?
Okay. A follow-up question. If this house were being built today, needing variances for all of its situation, how much stormwater management would be required? Do we know?
Well, we would still, I think, be under your board engineer would know more, but I still think we'd be under 1/4 of an acre of disturbance because the lot size is so small. So
Regardless, if this was a brand new construction, a whole brand new house, yes, they would definitely have to put in stormwater improvements.
And in fact, almost every renovation or addition in the city of Summit would require that.
Correct. And that's when it gets above the de minimis amount is when we have traditionally, we've always required stormwater improvements. But this is the smallest increase I think we've ever seen for lot coverage.
I can testify that this is the first time I've ever done a project that's so small that we don't have to do it, but it is so small. And that requires a variance. Most of the time you don't need a variance, or it's just like a few steps off the back or something. But this requires a variance, but it's so small that we don't need to put it in, and the engineer found that we don't need to put it in. But typically, as you know, Mr. Steiner, when we go in for these applications, there typically are there is a need for dry wells.
Could I just
kind
ask
of-
one
go ahead.
follow-up question to something Mr. Dower said? Is there a threshold where a de minimis impact is determined in this case?
It would have to be over several hundred square feet.
So 200 square feet is what the threshold for.
About that, it also depends on the size of the lot.
Okay, great. Thank you for your questions and comments. I think we're going to wrap this one up. Mr. Ball, can we put something in the conditions about stormwater management? It's going to be to 2 years like we typically do.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The stormwater management, we're going to put that in the conditions, just to clarify that that will be in the condition.
As far as we're going to include drainage jurisdiction for a period of 2 years was the one condition I noted, in addition to compliance with the terms noted in the engineer's report, one of which is that the applicant will be aware that if any additional stormwater runoff drainage problem occurs, they have to remedy that. If there's any additional conditions the board would like to impose, please let me know.
Myself on mute. I think we're good. Do we have, we're going to deliberate with this. So who would like to start? Mr. Steiner.
I'll start. It's a very simple, easy, very small renovation that now has a clinker because it's such a undersized lot. If indeed it were, under normal circumstances, we would be putting that in. But I think I have to go along with Mr. Dower, who's been doing a lot of this for us all over the place. And I wish there were a way that we could quantify a number to for this how much runoff can be measured on whatever circumstance to do it, but apparently that's not possible. So I think we have to go ahead with our expert, and it is such a small 46 square feet. I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Yeah, in my mind, this isn't quite as simple, but it all boils down to scale at the end of the day. And this is a de minimis addition, but I think as Mrs. Zahn testified to, this does have potential impact on our property. So, as we're kicking this around, I think we have to figure out, okay, what's the appropriate remedy to deal with this if it becomes a problem? And I think the condition that we've adopted towards retaining jurisdiction for 2 years is the most appropriate thing here. So, with that and, the small size of the addition, I can get behind this application.
I agree with Mr. Mullen and Mr. Steiner. If this addition was even a little bit bigger, I feel slightly uncomfortable because I don't know the actual conditions of the property and how much water is sitting in the backyard currently. And if we could fix that condition by adding a dry well, but because this addition is so small, it seems like to add the condition of a dry well is sort of out of balance with the size of the addition. So I also support it, but I agree with Mr. Mullen. It's not so cut and dry just because I'm aware of the other issues that are going on in that area. But I think I would vote yes on this.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Awesome.
Okay. Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay. Does anybody see? Mr. Malay?
He's on mute.
He's muted.
Yeah.
He's working on it.
Okay.
Hold on. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. Mr. Wickets
Yes.
and Vice Chairwoman Newell.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the project.
And I'll see you soon.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Second one is 39 Clark Street, Mr. Rubik and Riel Trumbelli.
It's us, Zach Rubik here.
There you go.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Brielle Tumbleteam. We're again at 39 Clark Street. We're super excited to walk you through this project. We both grew up in Union County. We are recent homeowners in Summit. We're looking to establish roots in Summit and raise a family here. We are super excited about the entire project and overall being in Summit. We're here with Nicholas Giuliano, which I will kick it over to him and he will walk us through the plans.
Okay. First, he's going to be sworn in.
Yep. And if you could please raise your right hand.
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matters, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Nicholas Giuliano, last name Giuliano.
Thank you. And would you kindly give us your background, a brief description of your experience, as well as 3 boards that you've appeared with before aside from Summit?
I've been a practicing architect for just over 10 years. I'm licensed to practice in New Jersey as well as New York State. I've worked primarily on residential single-family projects for the last 4 years. I've spent a considerable amount of time with Rose and Kelly Conway here in Summit as well. I've worked on about 10 to 15 projects that have gone for variances in Summit. I have not been the expert witness in them, but I was the project manager for the project. I've testified outside of Summit in Chautauqua, New York. Aside from there, this will be my second jurisdiction testifying in.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Giuliano, or would the board like to accept his credentials at this time?
We'll accept his credentials. Go ahead, Mr. Giuliano. Tell
Thank
us about
you.
the product.
So just an overall about the project. It's primarily renovations throughout the entire first floor of an existing 1-story Cape home built in or around 1954 in the R6 zone in Summit. The new work, the additions for the home are going to be a 2nd-story addition over part of the existing first floor, but not the entire footprint. A new rear deck and a new entry portico at the front of the house. And the main reasons we're looking to do the project is because the existing house is very undersized for what would be considered a contemporary family size home. It's 1-story. It's a very small kitchen, small bedrooms. The rear yard is inaccessible from any public area of the house. A bedroom and a bathroom back up to it. And the goal of our project here is to kind of open up the first floor a bit more for the public functions of the house and try and relocate the bedrooms and bathrooms and private functions to a 2nd floor addition. This way it's a little more livable and can accommodate a growing family with potentially 2 or 3 children down the road. So that's sort of our overall scope of the project. And we're seeking quite a few variances for it, but we're sort of just over the threshold for most of them. The first variance that we're seeking is for side yard setback. And the reason we're asking for this variance is part of the first floor of the house is already encroaching into one of the side yards. We're not exacerbating the condition, but we are proposing an addition directly above this area. The other yard setback would be the rear yard setback that we're looking for a variance for. The current house is already encroaching into the rear yard. The addition that we put on the 2nd floor would be conforming. The only non-conformance that we're asking for is a rear yard setback for the deck only, not for the actual house addition. The third variance we're seeking is for lot coverage. The current house is right about the limit of what's allowable. And due to the proposed deck that we are asking for, we're looking to go over by about 2.7% in lot coverage. And also due to the deck, we're looking for a building coverage variance. The house currently is already over the threshold for building coverage. We're not adding any building coverage by house addition, just for deck addition. The final variance we're looking for is for floor area ratio. Whereas 35% is the maximum, we're asking for 36.7, so 1.7 over the rear, over the maximum rather. And we feel that some of the variances are due to our existing hardships that are already on the lot. Rear yard, lot coverage, and building coverage are all sort of right at the limit or already over. So any addition of any of those categories would require a variance. And the variances for side yard setback and floor area ratio are primarily just due to the existing footprint of the first floor of the house. As I said earlier, the right side of the house already encroaches into a required side yard setback. So any addition above this area would require a variance. And we looked at a few options for how much area to make the second floor and seeing if it was possible to keep it within the floor area ratio and within that side yard setback. But we thought we were, offering a more attractive house to the neighborhood by not having the house sort of stop short just a foot or two above a side yard setback line. We thought it looked like a more cohesive, complete house that was built and original, that was built already to look like it was 2 stories, not so much just an addition. If we were able to just come over that setback line. And one other point regarding that side yard setback that we wanted to mention is that on the right side, the neighbor is set back very well beyond the minimum. So the neighboring home on the right side is about 20 feet from the common property line. So even though Mr. Huberg and Ms. Tumbledee's house is already over the right side setback line, the combined setback between those 2 houses would be well over 8 feet on each side in total. So we feel that asking for the side yard variance on that side is not detrimental to the neighbor.
I have one quick question. Looking at Krista Anderson's report, she talks about building coverage proposed at 36.7, and your sheets say 20 something.
Let's see. I'm not sure where Krista's getting that number from. Or
I'm thinking it could be a typo because the FAR proposed is also 36.7.
I think it's a typo. Our civil engineer and myself both came up with the same number of the 26%. So my guess would be that's a typo for building coverage.
Mr. Giuliano, can you just confirm the exact building coverage number that you have? Is it 20?
We have an exact number of, our drawings say 25.9%. Mr. Corzen's drawings say 26.0%, but we both have a square footage calculation of 1,621 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So would we go with the 26.7 just to have the larger number?
26.0 would be Mr. Corzen's number.
Okay.
I would just ask that we get Krista to confirm that just for the record.
Yep.
Perhaps we can condition that it has to be no more than that number.
That's just what I was going to suggest is would the applicants be willing to consent to that condition that any proposed increase in building coverage, the total will not exceed the 26.0% figure that you're proposing here?
And in this case, I'd use the smaller number.
Well, I think in any case, we, my number and Corzen's number, we both measure the house separately and we've collectively come up with a proposed number of 1,621 for the proposed building coverage. And we would be okay with a conditional approval of not going over that number.
Okay.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other questions? Actually, for board professionals first. Mr. Dow.
Sorry, Liz. I have no comments. I would note to the board that in this case, I also consider this to be de minimis increase, partly or mostly because the increase is with the deck in the rear of the property, and that deck obviously is considered impervious, but it will drain water below to the surface below the deck. So I didn't feel for this application that, again, it's a small increase and that there was any reason to put stormwater improvements in.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? And it should be noted that Mrs. Toth is back. Nothing. All right. Any questions from the interested public? No one. Okay. It's like quiet today. All right. Any comments from the public?
So I know the board did receive a single, I believe only a single written comment. So I would suggest that Chris can read that into the record at this point before we get any additional comments that the public may have.
Thank you.
Certainly. So we did receive some correspondence from a resident, Vicky Liederman, and her comments consist of the following. I believe the owner just purchased this house with the intent of doubling its size rather than buying an existing one that is already big enough for their needs. Adding a second story to this small ranch house has several negative consequences for the neighborhood and for Summit as a whole. It will even further reduce the very small number of smaller, less costly homes at Summit. It eliminates one of the few homes that has single-story living. Enlarging this and other neighborhood houses change the homogeneous character of this tiny neighborhood of single-story ranch houses within a city of huge mansions, perhaps the only one in Summit. This even further restricts the number of singles, seniors, couples, and small families and middle-class people who can live in Summit. For a community that went out of its way to build low-income senior housing, why would we negate that by eliminating already existing homes that cater to those populations? We need to preserve the few remaining options for people of lesser means to live here and remain here as they age. For a city that claims to welcome a diverse population, enlarging the smallest, lowest cost house does the opposite. Zoning regulations are put in place for a reason. Abide by them. And that was the only correspondence we received.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. I would also just note the board is required to listen to any written comments, but just keep in mind that those aren't to be considered testimony when the board's conducting its deliberations, although board members may have questions kind of along those same lines, or any members of the public may kind of elaborate on those written comments at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any other final comments from Brielle and Zach?
Can I ask the homeowners a question?
Sure.
Okay. Did you talk to your neighbors at all about this addition before you put in the application?
We did. So we had several conversations with neighbors that we've seen. Obviously, we've been in a little bit of a bind with COVID, not getting too close to everyone. And all the neighbors that we have talked to have been super supportive of the overall project and thinking about doing things in the future. And they overall seem very excited about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, was there an address on the information from the citizen?
I'm looking it over again. I did not recall seeing what, 52 Clark Street, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions or actually comments at this point? No? Okay. Mr. Ball, do we have the conditions before we go into deliberation?
Certainly. So the first is the usual compliance with the conditions noted in the engineer's report. The second and final condition is that the final building coverage figure shall not exceed 1,621 square feet. I'll just ask to confirm that I did hear that figure accurately.
Yes, I can confirm that.
Great. That's all I had.
Okay. Deliberations, who would like to start?
All right, I'll start. Nobody else wants to jump in. I'm in favor of the application. You know, the FAR variance is not really significantly above what's permitted in the neighborhood. And, you know, it didn't strike me that it was really out of scope with the neighborhood. There were a number of two-story houses on that block. It didn't strike me that was going to be an issue. The forester notes that no screening is needed. It seemed to be adequate was there. Our engineer again noted no added store management is needed. So yeah, I'm inclined to support the application. I think it'll be an improvement for that home, and I think it will be an improvement for the neighborhood.
And I also agree with Mr. Yuko, and, you know, considering all the other renovations on Huntley and on Clark Street, it is a very small addition. Yes, it is on a smaller lot, but it will enhance their living space, and I would approve as well.
Yeah, I also support this application. It's interesting. I think we see this phenomenon all over town. I know in my neighborhood, you're seeing all of the older housing stock get, you know, bought as people move in and out of town and improved. And that seems to be a natural and good thing in my view. I think refreshing the housing stock and maintaining it in accordance with modern standards benefits our town. You know, I don't think this is out of scale with the lot in any way, shape, or form. I've driven through that neighborhood, and I think it'll be a good addition.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and the second.
I'll second.
Awesome.
Okay, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Vice Chairwoman Newell.
Yes. Good luck on your project.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Michelle, are you good? Are you?
No,
Okay.
very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Rock and roll. Okay. Next up is Ty and Payal Patel for Club Drive.
Hi, good evening. This is Ty, and you have my wife Pyle. We're summer residents for over 10 years.
Can you just spell your name for our court reporter, please?
Certainly. My name is Ty, T-Y, and my wife's name is spelled P-A-Y-A-L, and last name is Patel, P-A-T-E-L.
Thank you. If you can tell us a little bit about your project, that'd be great.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were, well, like my husband was just saying, we've been in town for a really long, we have some of our neighbors joined here too. Our house is on a little bit of a very beautiful, but little bit of structural difficulty lot. And then Tom is our architect. So I wanted to pass it over to him to explain to you what we're trying to do. Our family is growing, so we're just trying to get an addition on it so that we can live here a little bit more comfortable with our family.
With our growing family.
Thank you. All right. Welcome back, Mr. Conway. You've already know your credentials, so why don't you tell us about the project and about your plans?
Hi, everybody, again. So I'm going to share my screen just to start with. Bear with me. Can you see this, everybody? You can? Liz, can you see that? All right, thanks. Yep. All right, so let's introduce the project. Is that the goal is to transform, it's an oddly shaped lot. We have a triangular lot here. And the home itself is an unusual shape. You'll see in these images here that we have a front facing the corner. We have, this is looking from Drum Hill. This is looking at the house from Club Drive. And this is also up Drum Hill looking kind of at the back of the house. You didn't really get a clear view of the back of the house. You'll note just in looking at the images on the Club Drive side, there's a little mudroom right here that we want to talk about. And we're proposing, I'm just going to talk generally about it, to build the upper floors and straighten out the inside of the house because it is a very unusual house. So those are kind of reference, but you can see the property is very well maintained. And I just wanted to start with those. Also, bear with me. I'm going to share my screen again. And can you see this? You can see the plan? Thank you.
Yes.
So, thank you. So this is looking at the property. You'll see that the property is triangularly shaped. And so the goal of the project is to transform the oddly shaped home and unusual and challenging layout to a more livable house, an attractive home that's appropriate for the family. The site is challenging because it's awkwardly configured with a narrow triangle at the intersection here, which doesn't allow for this part of the property developed. The required setbacks allow only for a triangular addition right here on the front of the house, which is really not helpful in developing. I don't think anybody really wants to live in a triangular shaped addition. So we're trying to avoid that. And the house does currently sit towards the back of the property, which is very typical of these triangular lots all over the city of Summit. Similarly, the house is accessed from 3 points. You come through, there's a through drive here, which enters into the front of the house. You enter through the mudroom off of Club Drive. You enter in the driveway off of Drum Hill, which is very unusual. Most people come in off of one entrance, so that also complicates things. And these all kind of create hardship conditions. And despite the funky shape of the house, I was calling it a manta ray shape house, which is the only way I could kind of describe this. Nothing is at an aligned angle. So we wanted to regularize that by putting additions on that allowed for expanded living space, but respected kind of the volumes of the house that are already there. So we wouldn't exacerbate the already issues with nonconformity. And the house is, as we looked at the elevations, it is a colonial revival house. So we want to maintain that and create traditional kind of colonial revival gabled forms on that. The majority of the work is on the quote back of the property, but it's really on the two sides. And what happens is with our additions, which you'll see in shortly, is that we create really facades on all three sides. So you're able to see a facade on Club Drive, a facade facing the corner, which is already there and enhanced, and one facing Drum Hill Drive. So I'm going to go to the first floor plan, and I'm just going to show you this, and then I'm going to take you through the additions, and then I'm going to give you go through the numbers specifically. But this is the current living, and this will take a while for everybody to kind of understand because it is a very unusual layout of a house. you come in off the front and you come into a central living room, which is really kind of a fan-shaped space. There is a nice dining room kitchen wing here, and there's another rectangular wing here, which currently has a master bedroom and a bedroom here. But it is a very difficult house to live in because of the shapes and the way that the layout is. There's currently a small laundry room off the back of the house. And there is a patio in the back. And that's really the only kind of outdoor space other than sitting out on the front lawn beyond the driveway, which they don't really do. So there's the backyard is just a sliver here, and the drive comes down underneath that volume. So what we're proposing is on the first floor is to create a more open floor plan for the main entrance, so that what's happening right now, pardon me, is that the room kind of pulls in on you, almost like a triangle does. And what we're trying to do is open up the plan so it feels more open and there's less tight corners. So we're keeping the existing dining room and kitchen. We're opening up this space and creating a true rectangular family room that they can actually put furniture in for TV. So this will be kind of central living room space. So it becomes more of a quote normal house with a dining room, a kitchen, a kind of living room lounge, and a family room. And then there's still a guest room on the first floor with a bath. And on the second floor, once again, you'll see that, pardon me. You'll see the same condition where on the second floor you come up and there's 2 triangle rooms up front and a bedroom and another bedroom. There's currently 3 bedrooms up here, but they're not very usable in that they're small and there's only 1 bath. So what we're doing is we're making the house more like a normal house in Summit in the neighborhood. We're putting a master suite, keeping the existing bathroom, maintaining the hall, and then we're basically creating 4 bedrooms on the second floor with 3 bathrooms. And this meets their requirements for staying in the home and making it a livable house. In the basement level, we're also just doing a crawl space on this side of the house, and we have a triangular piece where the generator and the equipment sit. And you'll note also on the first floor, we are enlarging the end of that current laundry into an enlarged mudroom and laundry because they don't have a mudroom because of the entry layout. The elevations, currently it shows them such that it's the existing and proposed below. So you'll note not only are those rooms up front triangular, but they also have a low ceiling. So it's kind of like being in an Escher painting where you have triangular rooms and the ceilings are coming down on you as well. So we've just decided to simplify the house and get a unified plate height so that we have a simple roof that comes across the side, 2 gables. And that then you can see less, rather than these being a number of forms, it's just a simple form here, simple form on the front. And once again, on the Drumhill side, it's more of a simple volume here as well, as best as we could. And on the rear of the house, where it looks quite large, it's actually coming out at these angles. So it's actually there, it's basically being built above the volumes that are there. You'll see this piece here and this piece here. So those volumes are filled in above there. So the numbers, I'll go over those. And there is a lot of nonconformity because of the size of the lot and the setbacks. So I'm going to go over that. The required variances that we need are front yard setbacks for Club Drive and Drum Drive, side yard setback for Club Drive, a side yard combined for Club Drive, lot coverage, building coverage, and FAR. FAR is exacerbated only by the mudroom addition, which is a small addition. Other than that, we meet all the requirements on the FAR. So it is kind of an indicator that it is kind of to scale for the size of the property, even though much of the property is not usable. The existing lot area is 15,000 square feet, and allowed, and the existing is actually 14,400 square feet. So it's slightly under in scale, which doesn't help matters. The front yard setback for Club Drive is required at 35. Currently, it's only 32.4. We're maintaining that setback, but of course, that's an existing nonconformity, so that requires a variance. For the second floor addition, Drum Hill Drive is required from the front yard setback to be 35 feet. We're only at 31.7 feet, and we're moving to 30.3 feet, and that is because of the mudroom addition and the angle. But it is the same setback for the main house. The side yard setbacks, it's required to be 15 feet. We're currently at 5.4 feet near that mudroom, and we are moving to proposing a 3.2 for that mudroom, that area. And the Drum Hill Drive is 15 feet required, and we're currently at luckily 41.2 feet, and we're proposing 28.7 feet. So that does not require a variance. The side yard combined for Club Drive is a complex calculation because of where you have to take it from each side, but it basically goes to be, currently it's required to be 35%. It's currently at 27.5%, and it will be a total of 24.8%, which is a total of 33.5 feet. And then Drum Hill Drive is 35 feet required, and we are at 44.3 feet, and we're going to 36.8 feet. So that does not require a variance. Lot coverage currently required, as we know, is 35% in R15, and we are at 39.3 feet, once again, an existing nonconformity, and we're proposing a small additional amount that is also for that mudroom area to 40.9%, and for a deck that we're proposing on the back to create a space, a more usable space in the backyard. And building coverage is 18%. Currently, it's non-conforming at 18.9%, and we're proposing 20.8%, also a variance. FAR is at 25% required. We're currently at 19.3, and with the proposal with the second floor addition, we just go over here to 25.3%. And as we said, a lot is undersized. So it is a very complex house. And so when we did do the calculations, when Krista was looking at these, it's very difficult to do the calculations because she uses, as we know, she uses a scale, and none of the angles are regular. So it's difficult to calculate those. But we are very similar to what she has suggested. She did bring up a number of issues. One of them was that there is play equipment in the backyard. We are going to be removing that play equipment. They had put the play equipment because there really wasn't, because of the odd location, they really didn't have a place to put it other than putting it kind of in the middle of their patio. They certainly couldn't put it in the living room or out on the front lawn. And that is being removed. The children are now old enough. And she also brought up the condition that the existing drive, which is a nonconformity, takes up a full 1,000 square feet, which is an impervious coverage of nearly 7% of the property, which that clearly outlines a existing nonconformity and also a hardship if they are to maintain that driveway. If we did consider removing that driveway to only get one curb cut, it would make living in this house really close to impossible to get in and out of the house because you have to kind of come from different locations. So that was not something we considered. And the design for the outside of the house is, as I said, a colonial revival design, and it's in keeping with the neighborhood, and we're bringing the house more up to the standard of the neighborhood. So that's my presentation so far.
Actually, Krista mentioned if you can possibly narrow the driveway, is that a possibility?
I think that's really up to the Patels. I don't really I've never driven on the driveway. I always park on Club. That would be a question that we could ask the Patels. Ty, is there a way to narrow that driveway a little bit?
So I'm sure there's a will, there's a way, but I don't view that. It's pretty narrow. So, it's a two-way driveway, meaning like access from Drum Hill and access from Club Drive. And so, my impression on that is that it's a pretty narrow driveway, but, we haven't really considered it. So I don't know, we can look into it if the board would like us to.
Can we talk through the driveway for a moment, just adding on to that? Because I wasn't following the comment that removing the driveway would make the property inaccessible. It seems like you have a rear drive. You obviously have the path to the mudroom. And if you remove the driveway and had just a walking path to the front door, it seems that the house would be accessible from all entrances. So I'm just not following
that logic. The Patels like to be able to walk in the front door, and because of the way the property is, you aren't able to you either had to pull underneath the house. It's a very steep drive that pulls you down underneath, or if you did park in the drive, you wouldn't be able to walk to the front door unless we put a walk all the way around the outside of the house. So if you did pull in, let's say here, you could put a walkway all the way around, but it is a pre-existing driveway that they like using. I might add that kind of property, this kind of property, often in Summit, it's not the way this property was developed, but if you note, generally in Summit where these properties come to a triangle, they're either much larger properties, let's say at the corner of Prospect Hill or at Lenox, or they become an actual grass kind of island. And there's also at Prospect Hill and Lenox on the other end, there's an actual grass island there where the road passes across that. And that makes it more of a common kind of entry system. And then also we have other triangles all over town where Linden meets Tulip, etc. So I think that they were attracted to keeping the drive there. That's something that the Patels wanted to have, so that they do kind of walk into the house on level rather than going under the house. But I mean, that's definitely up to them to make that decision.
Yeah, I believe that Krista said to reduce the total lot coverage percentage. I think if we can certainly utilize that would be helpful, not reduce, like taking away the driveway, but reducing the width of it.
Okay, and do we have an idea of what you'd like? It widens in the middle. Would you like to just have it the width of that it is consistent all the way through? Is that what would be desirable with the board?
I believe so. We can always confer with Krista to see what she thinks as well.
And what do you, Ty and Payal, do you think that's something you consider?
Yes.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I was going to ask about the driveway too. What about even considering adding some pavers or something to make that area, to reduce the impervious coverage? I know I've seen on some people's drives where they have a portion of it that has the pavers, even if it wasn't the entire driveway, but it does seem like there's a lot of driveway for this house. And I mean, I guess your garage is underneath your house, but it's a 2-car garage, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it seems like there's adequate parking on the property. And I understand the benefit of having this driveway. It's just, a lot of coverage. I mean, it just seems like it's accounting for a lot of lot coverage.
Yeah,
So,
and you are correct, and it is a condition, and the problem is also the way the site is laid out. It creates a patio as well because you can't really get down because of the way the house sits on the property. It's lifted, but I mean that could be something that the Patels could consider to pave a portion of that rear driveway to create something more pervious using pavers.
or the front one, I don't know what they think would look better, or I don't know how often they're using that front driveway. I mean, is that something they're using on a daily basis, or is it just when guests come, or, you know?
The front, if I may, the front driveway is used regularly. That's the main it's the main access to the house and the front door. And so that's used regularly. And one comment it's worth making is that pavers, just the topography of the lot, it's hilly. And so the pavers, in my experience, would be something that would need a lot of upkeep.
Okay. Okay. All right. So maybe just reducing that center portion a little bit is an option. Okay. Thank you.
Correct.
How wide is the driveway in the front?
I'm measuring that. Just 1 moment, please. It's about 10 to 11 feet on the portion where you enter along these pieces. And then here it becomes more like 14 to 15 feet. It's not exact, but it gets a little bit wider in this area. It goes out about another, let's say 5 feet. You know, it's not exact because it changes depending on where you're measuring it. So it's more of a standard driveway width here that's around 10, 11 feet. And then here it widens out to more like, as I said, 14, 15 feet in this piece right here. And that's to pull up and then get out the door, I'm assuming. I did not design the driveway, so.
Any other questions from the board?
I was just really trying to figure out how much narrower you could make it and what it would save in quote unquote square foot of coverage. And it, in order to make it useful, it's not really a whole lot.
Well, it's something that was suggested from Krista, so I think.
When I read Krista's note, I actually thought she was talking about that back driveway, that like corner area of like, it's kind of a parking area.
Yeah, it's that actually is very steep down that hill into that area. So it's really not easy to park there. You either kind of go in and you go into the garage, or you drive up front on it. But it's not really a place that you can, you know, in plan it looks fine, but it's actually to get down from Drum Hill and get down a full flight down in this shorter period of time, it is a very steep drive that goes below.
So maybe it does make sense to have that corner area kind of reclaimed where it is very steep there, where it kind of makes a corner I can't really point to it, but.
Are you meaning here?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the place where you can get your car out to get up the driveway. You have to be able to back to do a K-turn to get up the driveway. Without that piece, you're not able to get up the driveway. It's a very steep drive. I mean, if you wanted to walk down there, you could see that. But a car length is basically, let me just show you that. See here, this is the size of the garage here, which is, so it goes back just to here. So if you bring a car back, you kind of have to pull it back to the corner to be able to get it up the driveway. You can't really back out and then back up the hill because it's so steep.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Tom, I would echo that.
You know, it's not an easy drive at all.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
So that's why none of the driveway situation is perfect on this lot. And I think it is, you know, if they had had a better piece, if they had divided this property differently and we had a little bit more land in the back, you know, this could be a much more gracious driveway. And then you'd be able to walk in, you know, if the house was designed differently, you'd be able to walk into the front of the house here. You know, if you were starting a new house, you might walk into the front of the house over here. That's not really the way the house is. And even if you tore down the house and started over, it's still a very odd shape. You know, it's a triangle. So none of it's going to be an easy solution.
I'm just thinking that if you make them narrow down that driveway in the front, you know, you create a situation where they have to start jockeying cars a little bit more because, you know, right now, one car could pass another car if it's pulled off to the side. But once you make it more narrow, then you're backing cars out instead of being able to pull someone around, which, you know, maybe that's okay, but you are kind of creating a little bit more of a hassle for them.
If I may make an observation on that, that's the width of the driveway doesn't allow two cars to be parallel with one another.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, you can't do that.
No,
You
you
can't-
would have to be about 20 feet wide to get two cars to go by one another. It's just so you could pull the car up and open up the door and step onto the pavement. You know, when you drive on a driveway and a regular drive, you know, it may be on your narrow part on your driveway. If you open up the door, there's only a little bit of space to step onto the drive beyond the width of your car. You know, car's about 6 to 8 feet wide.
So, Mr. Patel, I mean, how much space do you actually think you have to give up? I mean, if you trim some of the width on the center part there.
I don't think it's a lot, but that, as Tom mentioned earlier, where it bubbles out towards the front of the house, as you see on both sides on Drum Hill and Club Drive, where it begins narrow. And I can tell you that narrow opening is just enough for the car to enter. Then as you proceed towards the center of that front driveway, that circular driveway, there's theoretically a few feet towards the grassy area that could be shaved off. But as I think one board member observed earlier, it's not a whole lot.
Do you think, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Conway, we would save, I don't know, somewhere in excess of 229 square feet by doing that?
No, I don't think we'd be able to. That would be great, but in theory, no, we're not going to be able to do that there. No, we're not, unfortunately.
Seemed like a nice round number.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.
Mr. Dower, do you have any questions?
I had some questions. I actually just did a very quick calculation. If that driveway were narrowed, it could be about 150 square feet. That's just doing a rough calculation here. And that would be towards the center where it widens out.
You made it consistent, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the main question we have was regarding some encroachments. We mentioned about the playground, but also the retaining walls, possibly a fence that's in the yard facing. So if you go in a driveway from Club Drive, it would be to the right. It appears on the survey that some of the retaining walls and a fence encroach on the neighbor's property to the right as you drive in. Lot 6.
Sorry. Are you talking about along here? I apologize. I'm just trying to understand.
No, it would be down right along there. Correct. Yes. So I'm just going, but this is by the survey that was done by Casey and Keller.
Yep.
Yes.
I don't have the digital on that, so I can't share that. I apologize. They have me representing, all the engineers seem to have me representing for them tonight.
Okay.
But there's currently, oh, you're saying the retaining wall, this curvilinear retaining wall here
Correct.
continues onto this property to maintain that. So I think that's kind of a conversation with that neighbor. I don't know, the Patel, is that neighbor joining us this evening?
Yes, she is. That's
Right, so
Debbie.
maybe
It's
you
the
can
Howard
talk-
family.
You might be able to talk to her at that, regarding that.
Okay, and there's also a fence, and it looks like maybe another retaining wall. It's also seems to run across the property line at that point.
Chris, I do have the grading plan on the city website if it helps.
Yeah, you have that?
Yeah, let me stop Tom's share and then I'll put it up.
Sorry, I apologize, Chris.
Ah, we make it happen.
You always make it happen, Chris. Nice car.
Yeah, someday. All right. And where are we at here?
You want to zoom in the Club Drive area right near the mudroom, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, right where those steps are leading into the side.
Actually, you have to go further
the other-
down.
No, you're on the Drum Hill.
There you
Yeah,
go.
correct.
So if you look right where, just below where it says portion of existing wall to be removed, there's a retaining wall that runs along from the driveway along Club Drive, and it seems to encroach onto the neighbor's property.
Yes, right there. Yeah.
Correct. And then if you go up a little bit farther up from there, it says fence, and it notes it's 4.36 feet west of the property line.
Oh, I
So
see.
really, the comment is just to alert you that there is an encroachment and that should be resolved, because it would come up more than likely if we were to go to sell a property, and could come up with either your property or the next door neighbor's property.
And I don't know, Ty, did you guys with the neighbor, develop that together? Did you guys put the fence up together, or is that something you put up, or?
No, that fence was, it's a replacement fence of what was there when we moved in.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of a pre-existing condition. So you don't know who put that, is that, my question is it your fence? Is it something you maintain, or is it something that you both maintain?
It's something that we maintain.
Okay.
But if we have to remove that fence, we'd be open to that.
Okay.
Okay. The other question I had, there was a note on the engineer's sheet that on sheet 1 about a footnote regarding the patio, and I wasn't really too sure. Do you know if that was just noting that it was a smaller footprint? This is the landscape plan. It's sheet 1. I'm trying to find it now. It was something to do with the patio, and it may have been just a reduction. I wanted some clarification, but if the engineer's not here, then I guess we can't get that.
The patio is being altered a slight bit because we are actually we're building that new deck on the back, and the deck actually then encapsulates and encloses with a louvered wood structure where the generator and everything goes in this corner right here. Can you see my cursor? You can't.
No.
All right, I apologize. Where the deck hits the patio, there's
Right,
a
I know.
point.
Yes.
And there's now, we created steps there, and we have a louvered area that's going to cover that, because that's kind of an unsightly piece of the back of the property. We want that to look really nice from Drum Hill. It's really not an attractive back wall and condition. So we want to enhance that. So I think that patio is actually changing in that area, and that may be what they're talking about.
Okay, and you mentioned, I think we talked before about air conditioning units and maybe not.
Yeah,
in terms
those
of the
are all
generator.
Yeah, that's actually those are not right now. They're exposed. They sit in that area. Do you want me to go back to my plan? To
Well,
show
just really the question would be, where are the new ones going to be located?
They're actually right next to the current. So if we go back to the plans, I don't know how to do this, Chris. If I go back to my plan here, can I go to that? Yeah. So is that you moving that around, Chris, now?
Yeah, I'll stop it. Here you go.
Can you see this now? Can you see the plan, or do I have to share it? I apologize.
You have to share it.
Yes,
You have to share it, Tom.
Sorry, I apologize. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. So we're talking about this area here, so I'll show you in plan. So this is what we're doing. So the patio kind of goes across like this, and there's this walkway that goes down around here. So we wanted to make this a little bit more gracious. So we're doing a louvered enclosure here that will have the generator and the mechanical equipment all enclosed here. So this triangle and even underneath the triangle will all be landscaped, because the backyard right now it's really not that great, and the rest of the property is so beautifully landscaped. So we want to create a nicer backyard, and that this area would be contained. So when you look at the elevations, pardon me. Yeah, see, we're creating an enclosure kind of behind the deck area, and that will be louvered, and that's where the mechanical equipment will be inside that with louvered vents. Rather than enclosing it with a bunch of arborvitae that immediately dies from the heat, we figured that we could put a nice louvered wood piece that's part of the deck design, and then we could landscape around it. So when you look you see it again here. See that louvered piece here?
Right.
So this is basically an enclosed element where the mechanicals can go, and then it's not ugly. And then we can landscape plants around it. And then that integrates with that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And it is confusing because we didn't note that, because we haven't designed the mechanical systems yet, but this is the area we're putting them. And there really is no other place to put them because the setbacks are so tight along the back of the property. We kind of this is kind of the only area that's kind of the best place to kind of put them and keep them away from all the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. I have one quick question. I'm not sure if you redid it, but Krista said that the deck seems to go beyond the house. Can you explain that?
You know what it is? It's because of the angle. I think she's saying when you project the deck, excuse me, trying to get to the right. When you project the deck here straight out, and it's going to be cantilevered at this point, with the setback of the property, it actually exacerbates the setback condition here. So that's what I think that's what she's referencing. Beyond that, I don't know what she's talking about. But that's what I think she's indicating.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Oh, sorry, Catherine.
Sorry, I don't know if this was addressed, and if it was addressed, I apologize, but are any trees being removed on the property? I think that was one of the comments, right?
We're not planning on removing any trees. There will be some new landscaping in around the back mudroom, but there's no trees that we're moving. I'm correct there.
That's right.
That's right.
There's just like some hydrangeas and boxwoods and stuff like that in that area that we're going to have to reconfigure, but there's no trees being removed.
Correct.
Okay, any questions from the interested public? Hold on, let me just scroll down. Seeing none. Okay. Quick question, Mr. You use the front driveway or the back driveway the most?
The front driveway.
So is there a reason why you didn't put the mudroom closer to the front?
I think the way our house is, it's not going to be possible to put the mudroom closer to the front. I would love to have it, but I don't think it would be possible.
Okay, cool. Because I was just looking at that plan. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yes, they have to come in. My kids will have to come in and go all the way back, but we're happy with that as long as we get a little bit of a mudroom.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's like 3 points of entry on this house, which is interesting. So, I think different people can, formal people come through the front door. They come in and probably inclement motor through the driveway. And then probably, am I correct that your friends and the neighbors come through the mudroom? Is that correct?
They all come to the front door.
Oh,
I
they
think
do.
we all
Okay.
use- yeah.
So that's just the kids and you guys coming in with sports and stuff.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Any comments from the interested public?
Ty, this is when you were asking when people might talk. This would be when they would.
Oh, yeah. So one of the reasons why we're looking to do this project, it's complicated, as you've heard. We love our neighbors. We love the street. And we invited some of our neighbors to join, and they were kind enough to join. So they are on. And if anyone has any comments, please feel free to say something.
Sure, I can jump in. Good evening, everyone. So nice to meet you all.
Can we have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Oishika Chakrabarti. I live.
And can you spell it, please?
Yes, it's Oisika, and Chakrabarti is Chakrabarti.
And your address, please.
11 Club Drive.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna swear you in, and I'll just note that any members of the public who are going to be providing testimony at this point, I'll be swearing you in as well. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And you already spelled your name, so you're good to go.
Thank you so much. And good evening again, everyone. I'm also joined by my husband. We have been neighbors of the Patels for about 5 years now, and we're really delighted to be here to support their plans for renovation. They're a very vibrant part of our community here on Club Drive. And we're really, really supportive of their renovations. I think it'll really enhance the living conditions, the second floor, and also, really keep them here in the community. And we're really, really supportive of that. So we hope this goes through. We just miss my daughter, who's as invested, and she just left to go to sleep. But just to say, we were all here to provide that support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, may I speak? My name is Andrea Davila.
Yes, I'm Debbie Howard.
Let's go with Andrea first, and I'll swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And please spell your last name for the record.
D as in David, A, V as in Victor, I-L-A.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I live across the street from the Patels, and I've been here for almost 5 years as well. And my family and myself are very excited about this renovation. They've been thinking about it. They've been dreaming about it for a while, and it's going to look fantastic, and they have all our support.
Thank you. Ms. Howard?
Yes, hi, my name is Debbie Howard, and I live at 4 Club Drive, so I'm the neighbor. Oh, should be 8 Club Drive. I would move into 4 Club Drive by the time you're done with the renovation, though. That's beautiful.
Anytime.
Ms. Howard, is there any chance you have video that you can turn on tonight?
I do not. I'm up in Vermont. I've got very limited internet here. I'm lucky I can do it on my phone right now. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. I'll just ask that the applicants confirm that they're okay with Ms. Howard appearing without video.
We're okay.
Great. And Ms.
Okay,
Howard, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
Thank you.
And I want to echo the sentiments of my other neighbors. You know, the Patels are a phenomenal part of our community, and we're going to do everything we can to help them, you know, do what they want to do and support them staying here. It's very important for all of us. Our home is probably the most impacted on the right-hand side since we're, you know, next door to them. And we had the privilege of going to their home the other night, sat down with them, looked at their plans, and I think it's going to be fabulous. The only thing I would have to say is, as far as any runoff on our property, the only runoff we would allow would be bourbon or wine from their house to ours.
Done. Anytime.
And I know that we'll be able to, you know, work with them with reference to that retaining wall that is between both of our properties. It's never been an issue. I'm sure we can, you know, keep it that way as well. Okay. Also, we have a couple of big trees there, which I know we're going to keep, and they're going to keep. Other than that, we don't have any issues at all. We look forward to helping them with the process.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good day. I'm Leo Saline. I'm on the Drumhill side, and I'd like to grant my support as well.
And if you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Sure. My name is Leo, and the last name is spelled Sallahian.
Thank you.
So we've been here for about 4 years now. Ty and Pyle have been great neighbors. We have young kids. They've been very welcoming to all of us and trying to bring us into the community as new folks. We're very supportive of what they're looking to do. As I mentioned, we look at this from the Drumhill side. We understand why they would want this upgrade, and my family and I hope that this gets granted for their benefit.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Just making sure. Awesome. Very supportive neighbors. We always like to see that.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Ball, any conditions?
Yes, so first would be compliance with the conditions noted in the engineer's report. The other condition I have, I'll just ask the board because I know there was some questions back and forth about it. Would the board like to require as a condition of this application that the driveway be narrowed in the front?
Yes.
Okay. And if that is the case, then the second condition would be the applicant would narrow the middle portion of the driveway to make it a consistent width throughout.
Thank you. All right. We would like to start deliberation. Anyone?
Oh, I'll go.
You or me, which one?
All right, Joe.
I've got to find the unmute button again. I think this is a neighborhood project that the neighborhood wants. And I think that they've done a nice job putting it together. I'm not sure we're gaining a whole lot with the driveway issue, but if it makes our vice chair happy, great. And I think that this is going to be well received, and it does what they want and meets all the criteria that we need to meet in order to grant those variances. So I will support it.
Yeah, and then I'll agree. I mean, it's a very unusual shaped lot. We have a few of these in Summit. We've seen some of these in front of the board before. I've never heard an architect use an animal description to describe a house before, but or you know, sea life or whatever the analogy was. But it seems appropriate in this case. It's an attractive house now. It'll be a more attractive house when it's done. You know, you're always concerned a little bit in situations like this about impact on neighbors, but it seems like the neighbors surrounding are supportive, very well organized by the applicant, but I'm sure very sincere as well. So I'll support the application too.
Awesome. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Awesome.
All right, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yeah.
and Mr. Lickett,
Yes.
and Vice Chairwoman Newell.
Yes. All the best with your project. And,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you for your time.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice seeing you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Michelle?
and thank you for letting me advise you all. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. You're the
Tom,
best.
are you coming back for the last one?
I'm not. I'm so out. Now, speaking of bourbon, that's where I'm going
There
right
you
now.
Come on over.
We
All
are
right, see
too.
ya. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay, so, all righty. So let me get my, so Peter and Christina,
Yeah.
Christiana will tell us about your project.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Peter Well, and this is my wife, Christiana, Chris. We've been residents of Summit since 2014. We purchased our home when our son was 6 months old, and now he's 7, and we have a daughter who's 4, both in the public school system. So we're very happy with the town. We love the neighborhood, and we have great neighbors. So we'd like to stay in our home, but there are a few things as our family has grown, a few goals of our project. The first goal would be to develop a second bathroom. We have one full bathroom right now. So that would be the first goal. And the second goal would be to create the garage that is more accessible and usable. Right now, we don't park a car in the garage because it's quite small. So that's the goal of the project, and to make the garage also accessible from inside the home. So it's a relatively small project. It does require just one variance, and that's for the combined side yard setbacks. So I believe it's 29 or 29%, and we're going to increase to 33%. So it's relatively minimal. So yeah, so that's a little bit about us and a little bit about the project. We did read through the feedback from the different various departments, and we know that Ms. Anderson had noted a few things on the property. First being a patio on the left-hand side when you're looking at the home, and the next is the shed, which is on the rear of the property. Both of these were pre-existing from when we moved in. So, things that if they were against code were things that we weren't aware of. We have spoken to our neighbors about the project in general, and we've gotten their support. In particular, the family or the neighbors on the right side of the property where it probably would impact the most, and the Kilkowskis, and they were supportive of the project. So, and we also have Alan Leonard here, who is our architect on the project, and he could probably describe it a little bit better than I can. We don't have any kind of a animal name described for it. It's a pretty boring project, I guess, in comparison to some of the previous ones that we've looked at. But I'll turn it over to Alan, and if he wants to elaborate.
Thank you.
And Alan, once you get yourself unmuted, if you could please raise your right hand.
Just a second. There we go.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Yeah, Alan Leonard, Leonard.
Thank you. And would you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before aside from Summit?
Yeah, I'm a registered architect, licensed since 1989. I appeared before the Summit Board in December on another project, and I've appeared in New Providence and Berkeley Heights and Madison.
All right. Any questions from the board, or would the board like to accept his credentials at this point?
Accept Mr. Leonard's credentials.
Okay, so I guess I'll go into the presentation. Yeah, I mean, the things we're trying to correct on the house is, as Peter mentioned, the garage and having a master bedroom with it's a second bathroom on the second floor. And so we can handle both things. The existing garage and the existing bedroom upstairs is 10 feet 1 inches interior dimension. So it's very small. It's okay as a kid's room. On my drawing, Chris, can you pull up the drawing?
Yeah, hold on.
Right. If you guys have the drawing in a hard copy, on the current drawing, there's a dresser shown at the back corner, and there's an existing closet back there. So the back, that existing bedroom where we're enlarging is basically 12 foot deep to the face of the closet and the 10 foot 1 wide. So we're proposing to add 4 feet to the house. And as you can see on the drawing, I've shaded in blue the additions we're doing. So on the first floor, the garage gets wider 4 feet. And then in the back behind it, there's an existing, you can see where the line's dotted in where the blue makes an L. They currently have a little powder room that's 25 inches wide, which isn't even code. And then a 3 foot hallway that goes out to a platform, which you can see on the photographs on the far left. The top photograph, it's a platform down to steps to the grade, and what we're doing is putting the steps interior, and so they'll step out to a platform pretty much at grade. And what this allows us to do is give them a small mudroom with hooks and cubbies and whatnot, but also allows them to come in from the garage without having to go outside. So it's I think a reasonable improvement. We'll also make some changes to the kitchen, which really there's no zoning issue with it other than we're opening up the kitchen, which is now walled off from the dining room. And then on the second floor, it's a pretty clean addition where we're completing out the shape of the house and putting a closet, walk-in closet next to a bathroom with a shower. And so the total addition is 4 foot to the side. And as Peter mentioned, we're just asking for a single variance for combined side yard setback, and the numbers he had a little different. You're required to have 33%, which in our case is 21.97 feet. The existing is 23.8 feet or 35.75, and what we're proposing and what the variance is for a total side yard of 19.8, and which is a percentage of 29.74. So we're a little over 3% under what the requirement is, but we meet the setbacks as an existing non-conformance where the patio is, but we meet front and rear. We're well under, we're a little over 2% under building coverage. We're 11% under lot coverage, and we're over 14% under floor area ratio, even with the addition. So we think it's a reasonable addition in terms of the zoning. I would like to, and just before we leave this, I wanted to say the front elevation, it didn't require variance, but we're trying to improve the front of the house with the entry roof, which is just going to be an entry roof that they have a shed roof that goes over the front door that would be this, you see a lot of these entry roofs with vaulted ceiling. And so I think it adds some character to the house. The other thing I'd like to mention, if you look at the photograph in the bottom left at the front yard and why we think combined side yard's not much of an issue in our case, the lot next door to the left, the blue house, it's a corner lot and it's facing Montrose, the house. And at the one end, that's the front yard of my client's house, the Will's house, the lot's 27 feet to the, I think a 10-foot radius curve. And so they push the house up Montrose towards Springfield, and the effect is that house is basically behind my client's house. So there's no sense of tightness to this. And on the other side, where we're required to be 8 foot, even with the addition, will be 12.8. So we think in terms of zoning, it's a reasonable application. And I wanted to mention these other things that Krista brought up, and I have to apologize to the board because I think she was following my site plan, which is reasonable. But for the patio at the side, there's an existing patio. There's a 7-foot existing setback to a 1-story. It's their family home. It's not very big. And on the existing survey, which you have a copy of, it looks like the patio, and Krista identified it going onto the neighbor's property. If you look at the existing survey that was included, that's actually a fence line that goes back. There's an existing railroad tied retaining wall because the grade drops that actually is on my client's property, and it's, what do you say, 8-9 inches in, and so the patio is actually like 6 point whatever feet, and it's totally on my client's property. The patio does not extend onto the neighbor's property. I don't know, they didn't build it. I don't know exactly the genesis of it, but because of the slope, I wouldn't be surprised, because of the slope down to the Will's house from this higher property, which slopes down towards Evergreen as well as down towards the neighbor's house, to my client's house, that this was put in to handle some kind of excess water issues, because it's a patio, it's a bluestone patio. I'm guessing that, but it's kind of a weird thing to have a 6-foot patio at the side of the house like this, in terms of actually using it, I think. So that was the one thing. The shed is on the side property line or slightly off, but pretty much on the property line. It doesn't meet the 4-foot setback to the side. It is more than 4 feet off the rear. Krista mentioned that. And then the other thing that was mentioned was about air condensers, air conditioning condensers. On the existing survey, there is actually one on that patio on the left side, an existing one. And I did not show the new one just because we hadn't gotten to that point, but the setback requirement is 10 foot to condensers. And so we have 12.8. This would be an additional condenser to handle the second floor, a second unit to handle the second floor and furnace up in the attic. And so I believe we should have room to put it between the new walk that we're just sort of pushing over and in this like planting bed, to put it on the right side and not violate the 10 feet. The other option we would consider, if for some reason we don't want a variance for that new condenser, it could go next to the chimney to the left side in this like cornered out area that is in front of the family room. We could put it there as well. So those are the things Krista mentioned. And then the engineer mentioned a few things just to confirm in the meeting that we're relocating the side walkway, but just we're taking it and just moving it because of the addition, but allowing a planting bed. It's not just going to be right along the house, partly because we have a little slab platform coming out the new side door. He mentions the AC units, which I just mentioned. And there's no trees being removed. There's an existing mature tree at the front of the driveway, at the front of the house, and also one behind the deck, which you can see on the rear photograph. So we're not disturbing them at all. So I believe that addresses the points in the memos and such, and that in terms of what we're actually trying to do on the house. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions.
Any questions from the board? I have one question. Chris has suggested to moving the shed to a conforming location. Are you willing to do that?
So we don't, because we didn't install the shed, we don't know. We think it might be difficult to move. I couldn't tell when I looked at it to see, if it was bolted to there's some cement underneath in the corners and in the middle that supports it. So I think it might not be that easy to move. But again,
We do use the shed though.
yeah, it is something that we
Move or remove the shed. but
we
that's-
use it on a regular basis, and we have things that are stored in it. So it's, we don't really want to remove it completely.
Understood. And I would suggest relocating it to a conforming location.
Either relocating, or they could ask for variance.
Right.
Which we could include here. Do we know its size?
It's 7 by 8.
Do we know how long it's been there?
At least 7 years. I would guess probably 5 years prior to that. I believe the previous owners lived in the house 5 years.
Around that, yeah, 5 or 6.
But I don't know if they installed it or if it was
Installed,
installed prior to them.
We can ask him a couple.
If we were
Yeah, and
to,
the existing survey that I was using doesn't, the date's cut off at the bottom, so it shows on the existing survey that was prior to the wills.
Okay.
Hey, Peter, do you know if the name of the previous owners were Ketchum? William and
They
Amy
were.
Ketchum?
Yep.
It was them?
Oh, I don't know if they are the folks that had it installed, but that's the name of the previous owner.
All right, that's the name on the, so it doesn't really tell you anything other than that's the name on the survey. So it's at least, you've been there since 2014?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's at least 12 years old if it was, conceivably, if it's on their survey.
So
But I'm guessing.
so if the shed were, if we were to grant a variance and the shed were to be either destroyed or removed, then it would have to be rebuilt in a conforming location upon destruction.
Yes.
So would you like, can we?
Andrew, is that correct?
Trying to find my unmute button there. Usually, if we have a variance granted and it were to be damaged, it could be rebuilt as is with the variance granted. Unless we were to grant the variance currently and impose a condition that if it's removed or destroyed for whatever reason, that it be relocated into a conforming location.
And I'd ask Peter, I would think that'd be reasonable. If I think it's the expense of actually kind of, I don't think it can just be shifted. It would kind of have to be rebuilt to move it. So if it needed to be rebuilt, it wouldn't be a huge cost to rebuild it in a conforming location.
Yeah, I think it's good.
So if the applicant is willing to agree to that condition, along with the grant of the variance here, I think we're in good shape.
Do you understand that? Can you just repeat what that all meant?
So what we're proposing is to accept the current condition and the location of the shed as is, and grant a variance for its current location. And as long as it's standing there, it can remain there. If it is either removed, destroyed, or something happens to it, then the condition would impose that it has to be relocated at that point to conform with the setback requirements, because as noted in the report, normally it's required to be 4 feet in. Currently, it's right on the property line.
Okay, understood. And
Yeah.
that's totally
I
fine.
think it makes sense. If we're gonna rebuild, we do in code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any questions from our board professionals? Mr. Doro?
I have no questions. Everything's been covered. Thank you.
Hi, any questions from the public? Let's see. I think we're dwindling down here. Any comments from the public? No? All right. Any deliberations? Why don't we start that? Actually, what conditions, Andy, is the, Mr. Ball is the shed, correct?
Yes, you can call me Andy. Compliance with the conditions noted in the engineer's report is number 1. And the second condition, just for the record, is that if the existing shed is removed or destroyed, it will be relocated to conform with any setback requirements or any other location requirements.
I would like to ask for one more based on the comment from Krista Anderson. She's suggesting that the applicant be required to obtain a new survey when this construction is completed. I think that might be a helpful thing given the age of the current survey.
Actually, I think that's in the Chris Dowers report
Is it?
requiring a GIS, right, Chris?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's reasonable. At what point would that have to take place?
That would be after all the construction is done.
Okay,
We want to do that, yeah.
that's fine.
Awesome. Okay, who would like to start the deliberations?
I'll start.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
I live in your neighborhood, so I did an addition on my house, so I'm very familiar with the size of your house and the challenges of living in there with one bathroom. And I think there's just this feeling that you need more space. And so I'm in favor of your application. I think it's pretty modest. You're on a corner lot. I walked by your house today. I mean, I think the addition really won't encroach on the neighbors. I like the architecture that you're adding in the front. I think it will look really nice and it will benefit the neighborhood. And I just think overall it's a nice addition that fits in with the scale. It will improve the property. And I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
And I also live in your neighborhood. I live around the corner, and I certainly feel your pain with the garage, because every time I pull in my garage, I shimmy out. And the architect did a great job, and I wish I used you when I did my addition. But I definitely would approve this. It would make your home a little bit more livable, and it's I can't wait to see it at completion.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Awesome.
All right, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yeah.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman Manul.
Yes. Good luck with your project, and we'll be walking by.
We'll see you on Mountain.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time
Thank you.
tonight.
Have a good night, everyone.
Awesome. All right, we have a few resolutions to get by.
Yeah, first is 118 Pine Grove Avenue, application ZB-20-2034. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Malay, Mr. Loikitz, and Ms. Toth. Would somebody like to move that?
I'll move that.
Second.
All right, Vice
Wait, I'm
Chairman,
sorry, who seconded it?
Mr.
Me.
Loikitz.
Scott.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
All right, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yeah.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
The space bar wasn't working, sorry. Yes.
All right. Next is 9 Fay Place, application ZB-20-2035. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Malay, Mr. Loikitz, and Ms. Toth. Would somebody like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Ms. Toth.
Yes.
All right, and our last resolution is 3 Crest Acre Court, application ZB-20-2036. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Malay, Mr. Loikitz, Ms. Toth, and Ms. Sager. Would somebody like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yeah.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Ms. Sager.
Yes.
All right, and we got a set of minutes from February 1st of 2021. Would somebody like to move those?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And seeing none.
Awesome. Thank you. Michelle, was that better with all the muting, or?
Yes, a lot better.
Perfect.
They're all a lot better. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right.
Now
Thanks,
just
guys.
remind us every time.
I know. Thank you,
Okay.
guys. And Steve will be back the next time. Don't worry.
You did great, Liz.
Thank you. The first one was a doozy, but it's all good. So, have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Liz.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.